This episode is brought to you by Lash Boss Summit. Lash Boss Summit is 2 full days of education in Austin, Texas on April 26th and 27th. The lineup is incredible. There are so many talented and genuine people on stage, so you're going to walk away with a ton of lash artistry and business strategy after that weekend. Not only that, there is built-in networking opportunities so that you can make new friends and connections while you're here. Your ticket also includes breakfast and lunch on both days, and all of this could be under $500 if you use code LashBossRadio. Lash Boss Summit is regarded as being incredibly impactful but not overwhelming, in the sense of it was designed to reduce anxiety and just be very warm and welcoming and just deliver a ton of value. The lineup, agenda, and tickets can all be found on lashbosssummit.com. I'd really like to see you there. I promise you it will be more than worth it. Enjoy this episode, and I hope to see you in April. Welcome back to Lash Boss Radio. I'm Shelby, your host, and today I'm joined by Dennis. You guys probably know him on Instagram as Denny Diva. He has created quite the name for himself on social media, and so we're here to talk a lot about his lash journey and also just some social media tips for you guys. So welcome to the show, Dennis.
Thank you. This honestly is like a dream come true, because I've been listening to your podcast forever. So to be honest, it is kind of amazing.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. I'm so happy you're here too. It's like I've been wanting to have you on for a really long time, and last year you came to Lash Boss Summit and we got to bond at LashCon and stuff like that, but this is the first time you're on. So yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, so just kind of to start us off, can you give us like a Cliff Notes version of your background in the industry? Like like a timeline of from when you started to kind of right now?
Yeah, so I initially, when I went into the beauty world, I actually wanted to be a hairdresser. That's actually was my first ever passion, because I grew up basically watching my aunt do hair, and then when life kind of kicked me down and I got fired from the job that I thought I was going to be like at forever, I was like, well, this is a perfect opportunity to go into something that I like. So I went to beauty school, and the hair world is very, very hard to get into, to break into, especially when you have like responsibilities and like life, whatever. So it was really hard for me to break in, find a home, find a place that would like nurture my talent and also where I can make money to survive. So Lashes kind of landed in my lap. A franchise opened up near me, and I was like, let me give it a whirl. I was already doing lashes on the side because I took a course through my beauty school. And I was like, you know what? Let me try it. What's the worst that could happen? And I loved it. And I kind of basically never looked back. So I ended up working there for 4 years, moved up the ranks there. And then 3 years ago, I went off on my own at the height of a worldwide pandemic, and I thrived somehow.
Oh,
But here I
yeah.
am.
Yeah, you more than thrived, yes. And you're very well known on social media. You did something very unique, I would say, by creating a alternate persona or something, Miss Tati.
Yeah. Miss
So
Tati.
I have lots of questions for you about that,
Yeah.
but I guess just to start off, like, what was your strategy with social media in the beginning, and how did that change, and when did Tati come into play?
So to be very honest, in the beginning, there was no strategy. It was literally just an outlet to kind of vent. I wanted to be like a person who vented about like clients or anything like that. It was literally just an outlet, because I went from working with like coworkers at a salon who I could like talk to and bounce ideas off of, to being by myself. And it was just a way to kind of just like get it out. And I've always been kind of like a little bit of a social media junkie. So once I started seeing myself getting a little traction, I kind of got the taste for like, oh wow, like this one did well. I want to do it again and again and again. And then eventually I started kind of honing in. Once I got that first DM of, oh my God, you're such a, like, I forget the message, but like, the aspirational message, like, oh my God, you inspire me so much. I was like, oh my God, like this is actually doing something for somebody. So that's when I really started to kind of hone in on like what type of content I want to create. And I've always loved like educating people. Um, but I never saw myself as like a big, huge educator, at least not in the beginning. So I use social media to kind of like mix my apparent like ability to make people laugh and also like kind of teach something at the same time. So it kind of morphed into that. And then the character Tati kind of was born by accident, I guess. I was just playing with a filter one time and I kind of got an idea of like a scenario that I kind of came across one time with somebody that I used to work, actually a couple people that I used to work with, and I went with it and people loved it. And then I was like, okay, I guess this is a thing. I kind of on my story one time just asked people to name the character, and then there she was. And here she.
Okay. Yeah. I found though that you kind of alternated a lot between Tati and Dennis, and then now I feel like it's less of Tati and more of Dennis. Do you have a reason for that? Like, is that an accident or on purpose?
No, it's kind of on purpose. I'm I was a li- it's gonna sound so funny, but I was a little bit jealous of Tati because for a while when I was started to use her a lot, I felt like I was getting more known for a character than being like a respected lash artist. So even now, people are still like when I make a I don't know, like a serious like not serious, but like an educational post or whatever, when it's like not like the funny stuff, people are always commenting like more Tati, more Tati, more Tati. And I'm just like, I love that. Like I love the fact that people love that character that I created, but like
You have more to
I still
offer.
want people to know I have more to offer than just a character. So it's like I'm kind of using her when it makes sense, not kind of relying on her to grow on social media, if that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah. Um I just side note, it popped in my head whenever we were at LashCon and it was like the pajama party. There's this video of me like yelling like in a deep voice because I was like, Dennis, come here. And then I was like, Tati, like so loud. And I'm like,
I know that was a last minute decision. I wasn't gonna do it, but everyone's like, "You have to come as her," and I was like,
yeah.
"Okay, okay." So I quickly just went to CVS and bought whatever makeup I could find and slapped it on.
Yeah, I loved it. It was amazing. So, would you describe yourself as outgoing in real life? Do you feel like you're more outgoing on social media sometimes? Like, could you explain kind of just like your personality and how that fits in with your social media personality, even just as Dennis online?
Yeah, so I'm kind of like an introverted extrovert kind of a thing.
Hmm.
I think you kind of saw a little bit of that with the first time I ever met you. I love being around people, but I get very overwhelmed around big crowds. So, I'm usually the type of person who has to get comfortable in the situation that I'm in. Once I'm comfortable, it's like no holds barred, you know? So, when it comes to social media, in the beginning I actually was a lot very, very camera shy. Like I didn't know how to do all the stuff that I do now. I was like just very um I didn't want that like negative, comments or anything. People like that was a little bit hard for me to kind of accept that like if I'm gonna do this, like I have to just embrace the fact that those might come with like the good comments and like the support. So but normally I tend to be very kind of I tend to be quiet at first. Very quiet. Once I get to know you, like the real me comes out.
Hmm.
So that's kind of how I am, just online or even in person.
Yeah. Well, what advice do you have for somebody that feels kind of the same? Like they're a little bit more on the shy side and they don't necessarily want to put themselves out there like that. What advice do you have for them who, those that want to grow their social media, maybe even become a social media personality themselves? Can you give them any advice?
I mean, I think there's more than one way to grow on social media without necessarily being like a
Personality.
face
Hmm.
or personality. But if you are looking to kind of break out of your comfort zone, it's literally as simple as just try it, and then just kind of see what works. That's honestly what I did. I literally had no clue what I was doing, and I had no direction with my content. But I was like, you know what? I really want to get more comfortable with being in front of the camera or just being in front of people as like a respected authority. So I was like, let me just try. What is the worst that could happen? Like, it's not. You either get no interaction at all, and it's like then it's nothing, or you get like a few bad comments and you just don't do it again, like, or you adjust, you learn from it.
Yeah.
but there's literally nothing like just trying it. Like there's no hack or secret to it, you
Mhm.
know?
You still do lashes yourself. I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of times when we see content creators in our industry, it's like they do lashes a lot less, or they go
Mhm.
just straight into teaching or a brand or owning a salon, and like they're not really doing the lashes anymore. So I think we see less and less. There's actual lash artists that are still creating content, but with that, you're also you're doing lashes basically. A lot of hours a week, and then you still got to produce some content. So
Mhm.
how often would you, or how much time do you dedicate for social media? Is it structured in that way, or do you just do it as the time comes to you?
A little of both. So I try and structure in the sense of like I have like on my notes on my phone, like whenever an idea strikes of like, okay, this would be a good idea for content, I'll like write it down in my notes so I don't forget about it. The same thing with like if I'm doing like audios that I see on Instagram, like if something like inspires me that I see, I will kind of copy and paste that into a note and write a little blurb about like what I want to use it for. But as far as like recording the content, it is a little bit harder as a full time lash artist because I don't create time to devote to the content. For me personally, my own personal experience, it's mainly because right now it's not my main source of income. Like if social media was like a big source of income for me, I would absolutely create time. But my main source of income right now is from taking clients, which I love. I don't like, I'm not saying that in a bad way. Like I love taking clients. Um, but yes, most of the time it's when like in between a client, and actually I work better that way personally. Like
Hmm.
I work better that way. Like it has to be kind of like in that moment when I find when I try and like batch create like a lot of people do, I get into such of a creative rut. I'm just like it almost feels like a chore for me. So I think just kind of doing it spontaneously for me personally, it works a little bit better. It comes
Hmm.
off a little bit more authentic. It doesn't come off forced.
Is there anything that you do in your week to make sure that you can be that spontaneous? Like you make sure that your like cleaning is on rotation, or like you're like, doing like your laundry in a certain flow. Like just does that make sense what I'm asking?
I feel like when I'm busier in my work week, tends to be when I tend to be the most creative because a lot more things happen that
Mm,
like inspire me. I find that not that I mean, fortunately, not that they happen very often, but like on my slower down, like down weeks, I tend to be in my head a little bit. So I'm
yeah.
like, why am I not busy? And I tend to not be as creative. But no, there's really nothing. I mean, I guess, yes and no, because I mean, I guess I do everything else very structured anyway. Like I'm very in a routine usually. Like I come to work, I go to the gym, I go home, I cook dinner, and I go to go to sleep. Not to sound boring, but like everything else, I guess in my life is already structured. So maybe I do it subconsciously.
Is there anything on social media that you would say are like things you won't do, like types of content, for example, or I think you mentioned earlier, like you never want to like vent about your clients in a way or like in a badmouth them type of thing. But is there anything that you would say like you're steering clear from on social media?
I never want to create content that makes somebody feel badly about themselves. Because I do see like other lash artists or even others just in general in the beauty world, other service providers or any type of content creator that deals with clients. I never want my content to come off as I am bashing either another provider or a client. I always want it to be like a funny take. Like if it is something that could be construed as that, I want there still to be a little nugget of education in it. Like for example, like how to deal with like a difficult client. Like I'm not just gonna flat out bash a client. I'm gonna kind of show you like, okay, we all deal with these clients. Let me show you how to deal with them. If you ever, kind of a thing like that.
Yeah.
So I always cringe when I see people who just flat out make content that's like just negative towards other professionals or clients. That's something I always will always steer clear from
Yeah.
because it can get ugly.
I totally agree. This is reminding me of something that like a couple years ago came up on my feed because I was kind of listening to the advice of our new social media person, and it was like a lot of the content she was pulling for us to shoot like a lip sync to or something would be something that would do that. And some of those I would be like, okay, fine. Like, and I would sit there and I would be like, okay, 3, 2, 1. And I'd like do the lip sync, and then we'd be like thinking of the words to say on the screen. And then it kind of felt like, oh, like, are we about to hurt someone's feelings when we post this? So I found that, like, I don't know. I try not to do those at all.
Yeah.
Because it's just that gray area of like, are we going to offend people by posting this? Is it actually going to be funny if we post this, you know?
It's a fine line, and that's something that I'm learning, especially because like my content tends to walk that line of like comedy. Comedy tends to be a very like fine line of like what's the word I'm looking
Subjective.
for? It's subjective. I either am gonna offend you or you're gonna laugh. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like I I'm learning that I can't shy away from doing something just because it might, this is gonna sound so opposite of what I just said before, but like it makes sense in my head. I don't want to shy away from doing something because I find it's gonna be like offensive to one person if like 10 people will laugh kind of a thing. Because
That's
I
true.
know that I'm not meaning it in an offensive way. Like, for example, I'll give you a perfect example because I still make mistakes. But there was this one reel I posted not too long ago. I mean, I don't know how much I can curse here, but like
It's okay.
it's the one where it says, tell your bitch I said hello. I don't know if you've heard that sound. And I posted it and it did really, really well. But I did get some comments of people being like, wow, like that, like, is that how you talk to your clients? And it's like, no, it's the whole point. If you read my caption, was I love my clients so much that like I feel bad when you like go to somebody else kind of
Yeah.
a thing. That was the point of the thing. So it's a fine line you have to
Yeah.
walk when with that type of content, especially when it's in the comedy realm.
The comments you mentioned earlier, like you try not to let the negative ones get to you, or you kind of know, like, okay, this comes with it, like with what I'm doing. Um,
Yeah.
I kind of feel like sometimes people leave those negative comments just for other people's approval. Like, how many likes on this comment am I going to get? Or like, just try and have to say something that's disagreeing with, those disagreeable type of people. There's agreeable people, and then there's people that have to
Yeah.
disagree. Do you feel like you get one of those on everything you post now at this level, or is it like
No, I've
few?
actually been very fortunate. I get like overwhelmingly more positive comments on my content than negative. I will get the occasional like troll, which to me it's like, thank you, you're watching my content. Like
Mhm.
you're helping me. Like I don't think they understand that. But the ones that are like negative or maybe post a comment where I'm like, okay, you didn't get the point of this. I do enjoy those because again, it creates the opportunity for a conversation to start in the comments and that one helps your engagement, and two, it gives you the opportunity to kind of learn. I take it as an opportunity to learn, like, okay, what could I have done differently here, or how could I have maybe presented this in a better way. So I don't take those personally. I take them as opportunities to learn,
Mhm.
if somebody didn't take my content the way it was intended.
I feel like also you see a lot on TikTok, especially where people will use a comment like that. A content creator will use a negative comment as their next prompt for their next piece of
Yes,
content.
I do that.
Yeah. Oh,
I've
yeah.
done that.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah, so I've done that. So sometimes you do get a little sassy, whatever, it's fine. But I do like those because again, it is an opportunity for you to kind of defend yourself in a sense, I guess. If it's a comment that's completely taking what you're trying to say out of context, it's great for engagement.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, it's great for engagement. But yeah, I will use those opportunities to either correct or defend myself. So I like it.
So, let's say somebody is just now starting off in the industry, starting their social media. What are some basic pieces of advice that you would make sure to have, such as like optimizing the bio in certain ways or something?
hmm First and foremost, I think what people need to or figure out is what is your intention with the social media? Like, what are you trying to say? Because I think a lot of people just start it. They'll try and follow all the trends and everything like that, but they have no clear message of what it is they're trying to say. So they cast this huge, huge net of like trying to get whoever they want to follow them, and then it creates a community of people that like don't really care that much about your. They may have like one piece of content, but they don't care enough to like continue to engage with your content. So you got to first find what is your message that you want to say, and then secondly, I would say is like who is it specifically that you want to speak to, right? Because and I've said this before on other content or whatever, but a lot of us as lash artists, the working lash artists, we will copy and paste creators or brands and their content that is meant to attract us as lash artists when we're trying to attract clients. And it's like, it doesn't work. So figure out like who it is that you want to speak to. The optimization of like the bios, that's like a whole, I can talk about that for like a really long time, but they have to learn how to actually speak in ways that the person that they're trying to reach will understand. Right. Because I know a lot of us as lash artists specifically, we love to post like the content of like, here's my mapping, here's the curls I use, here's this. And it's like, that's wonderful. But a client who knows nothing about lashes is, if you're trying to attract clients with your content, it might not reach them because you have a whole bunch of lash artists who are interacting with your content. Basically what I'm trying to say is just find your message and figure out who you're trying to talk to. Those two, if you don't have those two first, everything else is not going to matter because your message is going to get lost or just not heard in general.
Um, I totally agree with this, and this is why like a lot of people say like, hey, the follow trains is not a good idea because you're just like
Awful.
for the reason you just said, they'll follow you and then they'll be like, who is this again? I don't know what I'm
Right.
yeah.
Because people forget that the whole keyword is social media. And if they're not being social with you or you're not being social with them, then it's just a person kind of taking up space in your follower count.
Mhm.
You want to create a community of people who are going to engage with their content or people that you want to engage with their content to help kind of build each other up. And then the follow trains do absolutely nothing because it usually tends to be other professionals. And if you're a working lash artist trying to reach clients with your content, it does nothing. It just confuses the algorithm essentially. Like it
Yeah.
miscategorizes your content. It's pointless.
Yeah. Do you think about taking breaks on social media? And then let's say somebody has taken a break and like they want to make a comeback. Do you have advice for that?
Definitely, if you want to take a break, I would say do it because burnout is real. I have been going, truth be told, this past month, life in general just got like really like weirdly busy in my own head. Like I felt like I just didn't have time for like any one specific thing. So I haven't been posting quite as frequently lately as much as I used to. But people who do take a break and want to make a comeback, it is a little bit of a challenging struggle because depending on how long of a break you take, the algorithm can easily forget you. So you have to kind of work at some sort of consistency when you come back. You can't just assume, like, let's just say you take like a month off. You can't just assume that your content will perform the same that did like a month ago when you were posting 2, 3 times, maybe a day or a week. You have to kind of build that consistency back up and not necessarily start from scratch, but let them know, hey, I came back and just build yourself back up. So you got to, if you're going to come back to a consistency that you can sustain.
Mhm.
Whether
Or
that be once a day, yeah.
I want like I'm thinking it almost would be better to kind of have a buffer where if you had pieces of content already like saved up in case you did ever need to take a break for
Mhm.
yourself, that way you didn't lose the momentum or something.
Momentum. I agree. Yeah, I tend to sometimes do that. Like when I start posting more pictures and actual reels, that's how I'm kind of in my break mode because I tend to have times where like I just lose a little bit of creativity,
Mhm.
which again it happens to everyone, especially when you're not really like um I don't know, the type of content I do, I feel like you have to just like really have a lot of inspiration to pull from. Otherwise it just gets repetitive and boring. So when I find that when I try and create content and just feel super forced, I'm like, you know what, let me not. I'll just post a picture of work that I've maybe done in the past or some sort of educational picture or whatever. And then that's how I keep it going.
What is the hardest for you? Coming up with the idea of the content, creating that piece of content, the captions, or engaging, like, commenting back on the comments that you get.
The hardest part is the caption for me.
Same.
Because the caption is the hardest part because there is a science to it a little bit. Like depending on what you're trying to do with it, like you have to one make it make sense, and two you have to know how to use certain keywords to get your content to land correctly to the right people. So there is a little bit of a science to it, but the caption, I'm just not the best with words all the time, especially written word. Um, so that tends to be the hardest for me. But the easiest for me is once I have the idea, executing it is so easy. So it's
Mm-hmm.
the caption. Second hardest is coming up with the actual idea and making sure it makes sense.
I do want to ask you what you thought of Lash Boss Summit last year as we're like 3 months away from this one. What were your thoughts?
My gosh, it was honestly for me, it was such a blur, but in like the best way possible because it was the first event that I was ever involved in. So for me, it was like a little bit of a different experience than somebody who's just purely attending. Um, but I had such a blast. But I love your event. I wish, I almost wish your event was the first one that had ever gone to because it would have been a good kind of easing into like events comparative to like something bigger, like, like LashCon, for example, because it's not as overwhelming, but still has so much to like offer. You know what I'm saying? So, um, I had such a good time. I had such a
Yay.
good time.
Thank you.
I loved it. No, I honestly, I really do think it's you did such a great job like making it just right, if that makes sense. Like it's not a small little event where people like think like that was it, but it's also not like overwhelming. People are like, oh my God, I don't know where to go.
Got it. Yes, I agree
You
with
know,
that. Yes, thank you. Um,
love it.
what? How do you plan out your year of like being social inside of the industry? Like, how do you decide? Okay, I'm going to go to this Lash social or this like 1 or 2 day conference, LashCon. Like, how do you
Mhm.
kind of choose? This is where I'm going to attend, and maybe this one I'll sit this one out.
So that's actually kind of a new world for me because last year was really the first full year that I was going to events aside from like the first LashCon where I met you. That was like the first event I ever went to. So, and that was on a whim. And last year I was like, okay, well, I know I'm going to LashCon again. And then, Lash Ball Summit, I got invited, thankfully. So I went to those. Were really the only two that I went to last year. And then this year I told myself, okay, like I really want to start planning where I want to go. But then I realized I was like, I don't really know a lot of events.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I'm working on next. But I am learning about a lot more events this year. So next year I definitely plan on making a better plan for it because this is, like I said, truth be told, completely new to me.
Yeah.
Um,
There is
so
something in your area. I think it's in New York. It's called The
yes, it
Course.
is.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah. But it's on Father's Day.
Oh, what?
It's on Father's Day. I know. I saw
Oh.
it and I was like, I've been complaining and like begging for something to happen in the East Coast, and then it happens, and I'm like, but it's on Father's Day.
Yeah. Oh,
So I
man.
don't know. I'm still debating on going. I'm still trying to make Lash Ball Summit work. Not
Yeah.
gonna lie. Um, but I am being a little bit more. I do think like if people are gonna go to networking events, they do have to be kind of mindful because I mean, truth be told, I love everyone, but they're a little pricey.
Hmm.
If you go to a lot of them, right? So you
Yeah.
have to be very mindful about like um
Being selective of where you
thought
want to go.
thoughtful. Yeah. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm glad to see I'm seeing so many more events pop up, but I also don't want to just go to anything that like pops up because I feel like some people just kind of throw something together and
Yeah.
I don't want to be disappointed, you know?
Totally. Yeah. Got to make sure that money is well spent.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're in February. What have you got on the horizon for the rest of this year?
Okay, so on the horizon, I'm actually really excited because I am doing a webinar actually for the American Lash Association on social media, actually.
Nice.
So that is something that I have been leaning into a little bit more lately because everyone tells me that I'm really good at it, and I'm like, yes, I am good at it. So I finally embraced it, and I also did like a mini workshop a few weeks ago with some people that went really, really well. So it was kind of a little bit of a tester on what
What's
works,
to
what
come?
doesn't work, what
Hmm.
people need, what's to come. So that is in the works. Social media webinar. It might become like a continuous thing. I already have a course on for beginners. It's just a matter of me advertising it. which is like, I think the hardest part for me is learning how to advertise things. I have all the courses made, it's just advertising them. It's really the whole thing. So I do beginners, I teach advanced, like volume, like styling, mega volume, all that stuff. I have all those courses like sitting here. It's just a matter of advertising it. It's really it.
Is it feeling like you also don't want to be like always promoting or self-promoting on your social media? You still want to make sure you're providing value, and that's why you're maybe not sharing like, hey, I've got this class and stuff?
Yes, and I think it is a little bit still of that imposter syndrome sometimes. I think we all battle, no matter what level of success we
Yep.
reach. I think we all kind of battle a little bit of that imposter syndrome. So, something that I'm making a point of this year as how I use social media, I'm trying my best to consume less and create more, because I find that when the more I consume, the more I see other people doing something that I already wanted to do, and then I feel like, oh, well, somebody already did it, and it's like, let me not, because they're not going to do it how I do it, and I'm not going to do it how they do it. So I'm trying my best to consume less and just create. I still obviously consume, but like
Yeah.
I want to create more so that I don't get in my own head,
Yeah.
because I know what I can do and I know what I have to offer. It's just a matter of not letting myself stop myself. So,
Yes, I love that piece of advice. I do the same thing when I'm scrolling. I'm like, oh my God, I thought of that. And yeah, and then I get down
yeah.
for like a day. Well, awesome.
I'm glad I'm not the only one,
No,
because
yeah, I was like, I totally recognize that feeling. Anyway, well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Finally, I'm so happy we have an episode now.
yes. Sorry for the time snafu. I was in
Nope,
a
that
full
was my
panic.
fault, you guys. I totally messed up the time zones and scheduled him an hour before he was ready, because I told him it was going to be at a different time, and I meant a different time. Anyway, well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of your social media tips. And I've enjoyed getting to talk to you.
Thank you.